McLaren's entire 2026 season could collapse, and the FIA's leaked files just exposed why. Behind closed doors, engineers are panicking. One crucial system isn't working. If they fail to fix it in time, they're done. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar project heading straight for disaster. Meanwhile, Red Bull and Ferrari are already exploiting McLaren's biggest weakness. If you want to stay ahead of every F1 twist before it hits the headlines, smash that subscribe button right now. What's coming next could decide the future of the team. The Formula One world was shaken when confidential FIA technical evaluation files were quietly leaked to select paddock insiders. Among dozens of performance reviews and energy integration summaries, one detail stood out: McLaren's 2026 prototype is significantly underperforming in key hybrid efficiency benchmarks. In a year where electrical deployment and active aero will define grid order, the fact that McLaren is off target by as much as 15% in thermal recovery zones is not just a red flag, it's a potential season killer. The FIA simulations, based on pre-submitted team data and standardized test environments, painted a troubling picture. While rivals like Mercedes and Red Bull showed tight compliance with the new active aero modes and battery discharge protocols, McLaren's readings flagged abnormal fluctuations in their MGUK output under cornering loads. The system, meant to store and deploy energy smoothly across the lap, appeared to deliver power inconsistently, creating unpredictable handling profiles that could ruin race balance. Internally, the leak has caused a surge of concern inside the McLaren camp. Engineers who believed they were ahead of schedule are now revisiting old assumptions about battery placement, wiring harness design, and airflow coordination with the side pod architecture. One particularly worrying note in the FIA documents highlighted critical instability during mid-speed deployment phases, suggesting that the car might suffer significant drop-offs in performance on tighter circuits like Monaco or Budapest, where exit torque is crucial. The flaw seems to stem from the integration point between the new hybrid unit and McLaren's bespoke cooling channels, a design they believed would give them a thermal edge over heavier configurations. But that gamble now appears to have backfired. As the battery overheats under stress, the ECU reduces output to preserve integrity, cutting power during critical acceleration windows. In a regulation cycle where power management is king, McLaren has accidentally created a car that punishes itself for being fast. What's even more dangerous is that the issue may be deeply embedded in the chassis design itself. Sources close to the FIA's technical group suggest that fixing this will require not just software tuning or minor component reshuffling, but potentially a full redesign of the rear packaging structure, something that would consume millions in both cap space and hours. With the cost cap still in place for 2026, McLaren is now faced with a brutal choice: patch the problem and risk instability, or go back to the drawing board and burn months of development time. Drivers Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris have reportedly begun feeling the limitations in simulator sessions. According to insiders, both gave feedback indicating that corner exit throttle felt delayed or unpredictable in certain hybrid modes, feedback now understood to align with the FIA's findings. Although no official comments have been made, it's understood that the team is limiting certain test runs until a more stable baseline is developed. This adds psychological strain to both the drivers and the race engineers, who are expected to perform with incomplete tools. With the 2026 season still months away, McLaren technically has time to course-correct, but in Formula One, lead time is everything. Now playing catch-up to solve a core performance bottleneck, McLaren risks falling behind in other key development areas like drag efficiency tuning, tire degradation modeling, and long-run hybrid calibration. The leaked FIA data didn't just expose a flaw, it lit a signal flare over Woking. The question now is whether the team can respond fast enough to avoid disaster. Inside McLaren's technology center, the mood has shifted from quiet confidence to controlled urgency. Just weeks ago, the leadership team believed they had built a strong foundation for the 2026 regulations, a package that blended aerodynamic efficiency with a new energy deployment philosophy. But since the FIA leaks hit the paddock, senior engineers have found themselves summoned to closed-door meetings, daily war rooms, and late-night simulation reviews. What was once a well-paced roadmap has become a fire drill. Zak Brown, McLaren's CEO, has reportedly demanded clarity on every performance metric mentioned in the leak. While Brown is not directly involved in technical operations, he knows the impact such revelations can have on the brand, the sponsors, and the morale of the entire operation. Team principal Andrea Stella is under growing pressure to prove that McLaren has a corrective strategy in place and fast. His recent internal debriefs have emphasized one theme: transparency, speed, and no excuses. What's made this situation even more complex is the growing tension between the design office and the power unit integration team. Some insiders suggest that the cooling concept, which now appears to be the root cause of the hybrid instability, was pushed aggressively by aerodynamicists looking to reduce drag coefficients. But in doing so, they may have boxed in the battery and power unit teams, limiting their ability to build a thermally stable architecture. These design trade-offs, once seen as clever risk-taking, are now being reclassified as overreach. There is also concern over whether too much of the 2026 car's concept relied on simulator models rather than physical testing. The FIA leak highlighted discrepancies between expected and actual thermal behavior under real-world track loads, suggesting that McLaren simulation tools may not have been calibrated to match 2020 SIX's full hybrid deployment rules. If true, this means the team may need to overhaul some of its development assumptions, a devastating prospect so late in the design cycle. Internally, whispers of accountability are beginning to surface. Senior figures in the hybrid integration group, previously considered essential to McLaren's forward leap, are now under review. There are no public dismissals or reshuffles yet, but the climate has changed. Resources are being reallocated. Engineers are being reassigned. And with every passing day, the cost of delay grows heavier, not just financially, but in competitive momentum. There is also growing concern that the drivers themselves, particularly Oscar Piastri, may begin to lose faith in the long-term vision if these problems linger. Piastri's camp has been pushing for assurances that the team will remain competitive in the new era, especially with other seats likely to open across the grid by late 2026. The longer McLaren appears unstable, the more pressure there will be on leadership to deliver something concrete, not just promises, but progress. Ultimately, McLaren's leadership finds itself cornered by time, regulations, and optics. The FIA leak didn't just expose a technical weakness, it exposed how fragile confidence can be inside a team chasing resurgence. Every decision now must walk the line between urgency and stability. If they overcorrect, they risk creating new issues. If they move too slowly, they risk being irrelevant before lights out in Bahrain. This is the kind of pressure that defines whether a team truly belongs at the front or is simply fighting not to fall behind. While McLaren is locked in internal damage control, their rivals are moving swiftly and ruthlessly. Red Bull Racing, already masters of adapting early to regulation changes, are capitalizing on McLaren's hybrid missteps by refining a power unit package that has reportedly shown unmatched deployment efficiency in FIA simulations. According to those familiar with the Red Bull powertrains program, their 2026 unit isn't just reliable, it's blisteringly consistent across every deployment phase, even on circuits with high thermal stress. Adrian Newey's legacy continues to shape Red Bull's design approach. Even in his partial advisory role, Newey's influence is evident in the car's 2026 airflow channeling and battery positioning. Insiders suggest that Red Bull has managed to maintain aerodynamic supremacy while leaving enough room for robust thermal management, something McLaren's aggressive chassis failed to accommodate. As McLaren pulls apart and reworks core concepts, Red Bull is running longer and faster in their simulations, already preparing for physical validation by mid-season 2025. Ferrari, meanwhile, is embracing a more balanced strategy. Their recent investment into hybrid control software, a collaboration with their road car division's EV specialists, has given them a surprising edge in battery life and smooth discharge rates. Sources within Maranello believe that by mid-2026, Ferrari's system could lead the field in electrical endurance. That's a vital trait, as the new regulations demand prolonged hybrid deployment to offset reductions in internal combustion engine power. The Italian team's methodical progress contrasts sharply with McLaren's chaotic recalibration. Where McLaren is now redoing core architecture, Ferrari is reportedly fine-tuning reliability scenarios for each circuit profile. That preparation gives Ferrari flexibility, while McLaren is scrambling just to meet base performance targets. This shift in positioning could see Ferrari reclaim the front-row consistency they've been chasing since 2019, especially if Red Bull and McLaren end up splitting development directions. There is also a psychological edge beginning to show. When drivers and engineers sense clarity, they work with confidence. When things are uncertain, doubts creep in. At Red Bull, Verstappen is locked in and focused on the new car's evolution. At Ferrari, Charles Leclerc is said to be heavily involved in setup feedback loops, already testing theoretical race simulations with the hybrid profile mapped in. At McLaren, Piastri and Norris are dealing with limited test scenarios and rapidly shifting targets. That kind of environment breeds frustration, not momentum. Even Mercedes, often quieter in their development phase, has reportedly clocked more complete hybrid track cycles than McLaren as of the FIA's last report. Their design might not be as radical, but it is reliable, and that reliability offers a platform for incremental gains. McLaren's reset means they'll be taking development detours while Mercedes and others push ahead in key aero-to-energy transitions that will dominate 2026 strategy. What's emerging is a familiar F1 story. While one team stumbles under pressure, others seize the moment. In this case, McLaren's vulnerability is acting as an accelerant for Red Bull and Ferrari's competitive fire. These teams know how rare it is to gain a seasonal advantage before testing begins. And if McLaren cannot stabilize quickly, the 2026 grid could lock itself into a two-team fight long before the first green flag, leaving McLaren staring at a battle for third, or worse.